Hello, my name is Susan Johnson and this is my screencast close reading project for my graduate course entitled Problems in Literary Criticism, instructed by Dr. Michael Morgan. First, I would like to start out by observing Along the Briny Beach by J.R. Carpenter without any interaction. At this time, please note the color scheme as I launch the work. Carpenter uses different sea color schemes throughout her piece. The background is a tan color representing the beach, sand. There's also various muted tones of blues, such as the blue poetry that's beginning to be created and generated on the left side of the screen. They're used to represent the sky and water. We also have blue over to the right as well. She also uses white, gray, and gold and brown for the text as well, and for some of her images. The earth, sky, and water are represented in the text itself, in the positioning of the text, and in the images and pictures. You can see representation of sky, and when I do interact with it, I can control it somewhat. Finally, the pictures that flash across the screen are a combination of colored and black and white photos. And you can see that one picture is starting, it's the sand. And are highlighted, some are highlighted with color and some are just muted or just show a neutral tone. This piece is a combination of textins and scriptins. In other words, the literature that Carpenter used is not only a part of the code itself, and this was shown on the first page before I launched. You also see this shown in the link called credits, which we will look at in a few moments. But the textins become scriptins that are also viewable by the reader as well. It is also static and intratextonic. Computer-generated poetry, which is to your left on the screen, is constant and fixed, much like the other text in the center and off to the right. In other words, I can't reposition them or move them. However, the computer-generated poetry over on the left rewrites itself and changes, unlike the rest of the text that are loops, and when they are finished they repeat themselves. There are no hyperlinks in any of the literature on this page. You can click on it, it doesn't do anything if you click over on the computer-generated poetry on the left. You can stop indefinitely some of the words that are racing across the screen, but it doesn't really affect any other part of the literature itself, the piece. You can also sometimes make it go backwards if you hit it a certain way with your cursor. Carpenter's work is also intransient. The words and scriptins begin to appear only moments after the program is started. The piece is also impersonal. The reader cannot input their own words into the text at all. It is not like a game. It has no timer. It just runs indefinitely. And once you leave your spot, you can't go back to that same place. It just starts over again, and we'll see this when I go to the links. It is random. It appears to the reader at all times. And when the reader clicks on the links in the right-hand corner, they are provided with information about the author, perhaps personal, and how the piece operates. And at this time I will go up to the links. We'll go on credits. It will bring you to some information about how J.R. Carpenter created her coastline generator and the different things she loaded in, the variables. To me, it's in a way like being a cyborg. Carpenter, the human, put in all this information, and then the computer generates poetry, and also accessing other databases as well that she provided. But overall, I think she is the author because she had to load all the variables and she had to give the computer the information and perhaps access to some of the databases. Like I said, I'm not well versed in coding, and so I'm not quite sure how that works. Also, you can return, but as you can see, it starts all over again. You can't go back to the spot you were at. And you can also see on the left side that it rewrites. The poetry rewrites itself. It's maybe some similar words, but they are put together differently. Also, if you were to click on J.R. Carpenter's name, it brings you to a page where it talks about her credibility, her blog and her other books she has. Also, and you can also click on these. These are links as well. I'm going to examine these a little bit, but I'd also like to say that it is performative, this piece, in that the movement of the text mimics the movement of the waves on the sea and perhaps walking on the beach, and how people discover different items such as organic and man-made items, garbage, refuse. Overall, I thought the piece shows two sides of the beach, one of beauty and peace and the other of destruction and chaos. Perhaps it mimics us too, mankind, our two sides, good and evil, or the conscious and the subconscious too. I'm going to look into some of these other links that she has provided for us, and perhaps I'll go on to her digital literature, and it does provide links to other forms of digital literature. And it doesn't look like I can go back. I'm going to scroll down now on this. And as you can see, there's also different types of digital literature here that she's provided. There are some links at the bottom. And it looks like I can perhaps go to some of those other. We're going to try prose and poetics. Some critical writing. So like I said, it does have links. Oh, we hit a block. Page not found for some books. So but it appears that I would have to click on one of the tabs at the top to go back. And this is something I'm surprised at. I didn't realize that when I go on to the Carpenter page, I could get back on to where I was for my the spot where I was at. So I did not know this. This is something new I discovered. Let's see. So that was something new. I'm going to try and see if I can stop some of the words. I found that it's almost impossible to catch some of these words on the images that are being shown. It looks almost like they're just definitions. Mountains, they go by so fast that when you do try to intervene, it's impossible to really stop it. I did catch that word, inhabitants of islands, establishments, seaweed, extinction, blue mountains, but it's real difficult to see if it is like a story. Like this part of the text you can actually see as a story. This one is Jabberwocky from Jabberwocky, and once the pictures disappear, the words that are forming over the images also disappear into the background. So they're still there, it's just it can't be seen by the reader. So the most I can do in terms of interaction is I can make some of the text go backwards, and I can pause it indefinitely. But as to links, there's no links or anything. It won't take me any other place. I can't input anything into it. And I have to move away with the cursor in order for it to start up again. At this point, for the most part, there's been mostly muted colors going through. Looks like coral, perhaps. Later on, I do notice that Carpenter has images of plastic and netting entangled in pieces of driftwood or roots of a tree, it appears, and the colors have been highlighted, which are in blues. And then I noticed too some of the items, man-made artifacts that are left on the beach, wash up onto shore, are also in color too. She's highlighted those. I assume it's intentional, perhaps showing that a lot of times we take what we have for granted. We take our natural resources for granted, perhaps. For the most part, I felt the piece was very pleasing though. On the eyes, the color scheme, and just the overall look of being on the beach and walking and finding different things reminded me of happy times. I think it reaches a wide audience. Most people are familiar with a beach, walking on the beach at some point in their life. And this is where this text is going to start to loop and start over again. The dots show up in the squiggly lines for the time being, and then it starts over again in that continuous loop I mentioned. I guess the squiggly lines remind me a little bit of sails in the wind right here, or waves, the waters. Here's some of the driftwood I had mentioned, and it's in those muted tones. Earlier when I was viewing this, I noticed different words that kept reappearing too as well. Briny, which means sea salt or the sea. But overall I do like the piece. It's very peaceful, even though there's chaos. And that's my conclusion on this piece. Thank you for your time.